Once upon a time, there lived a man named Chief Obinna Chijubem. He was a very rich man, one of the richest men in all of Nigeria. People called him the Silent Lion because he never shouted, but when he spoke, things happened. He had built his business from scratch, starting with one old car and a small spare parts shop in Aba. Now, he owned companies in Lagos, Abuja, and even London. Obinna was not just rich, he was also smart. He knew when people were lying. He knew when people were hiding something. And most of all, he knew how to watch quietly. That's why, even when people smiled at him, he always looked into their eyes, not their lips. He had a big house in Lekki, with marble floors, golden railings, and 12 bedrooms. But the house had no joy inside. His wife, Amarachi, used to love him. Now, she barely looked at him. His son, Abuka, only spoke to him when he needed money. His 2 teenage daughters, Chisholm and Adaora, cared more about Instagram than they did about their father's health. Still, Obinna tried. He tried to laugh. He tried to ask how their day went. But every time he spoke, they acted like he was disturbing them. And today, on his 53rd birthday, he could feel something different in the air. It was heavy, cold, like the walls themselves were whispering behind his back. "Happy birthday, Daddy," Chisholm said as she came downstairs in a tight dress. She didn't hug him. She only looked at her phone. "Thanks, my dear," Obinna said, smiling with tired eyes. Adaora followed, chewing gum, and dropped a weak kiss on his cheek. Abuka walked in wearing dark shades, even though they were indoors. "So, how does it feel to be closer to 60? Abuka asked, laughing. Obinna chuckled. "It feels like my bones are warning me to choose peace over noise." "Maybe you should retire then," Abuka added quickly. Obinna looked at him. There it was again, that strange eagerness in Abuka's voice, that small smirk behind his words. Amarachi walked in, dressed in a beautiful red gown. She looked stunning, like a woman about to host a TV show. She smiled wide and kissed Obinna on the forehead. "My lion, happy birthday. You look handsome." Obinna blinked. "You've not called me lion in 5 years." Amarachi laughed. "Then maybe I'm learning to love again." But Obinna knew something was wrong. Earlier that month, while visiting his village for a burial, he had passed through a lonely road. A small old man stopped him and spoke strange words. "You carry danger inside your own house," the man had said. "They are sharpening the knife with your name on it." At first, Obinna didn't take it seriously, but that same night, he found the same old man again. This time wearing red beads and white chalk on his face. He was a native doctor, and his shrine was hidden deep inside the forest. "If the ones you love the most turn against you," the native doctor said, "this charm will protect your soul. You will fall, but you will not stay down. You will return. And when you return, they must speak the truth." Obinna took the charm. He didn't know why, but something inside him said, "Just in case." Now, here he was, sitting at the head of his long glass dining table. Gold plates, expensive wine, soft music in the background. His family sat around him, pretending to smile. The maid served jollof rice, goat meat, and of course, the wine. Amarachi raised her glass. "A toast to our great husband, father, and leader. You have lived well. May you continue to rest. I mean, reign, like the king you are." Obinna's eyes narrowed. That slip, rest instead of reign, was not an accident. He picked up his glass and smiled. "To family. May we always stay true to one another." They all clinked glasses. The wine touched his lips. It was bitter, strange, but he didn't stop drinking. Abuka laughed too loud. Chisholm and Adaora looked at him from the corners of their eyes. Then it happened. His throat began to burn. His chest tightened. His hands shook as he dropped the glass. The room turned blurry. He gasped. Amarachi stood up suddenly, pretending to be shocked. "Obinna? Obinna, what's wrong?" He tried to speak, but no words came out. Abuka rushed to him, slapped his back, too hard. "Dad? Are you okay?" he asked, but there was no panic in his voice. Obinna looked at them, one by one. Amarachi, Abuka, Chisholm, Adaora. He saw the truth in their eyes. They were not surprised. They were not afraid. They were ready. And then, darkness. He fell. His head hit the edge of the table. The maid screamed from the kitchen, but Amarachi shouted louder, blocking her view. "Stay back. Go and call the driver." Minutes later, the doctor declared him dead. "No pulse. Cardiac arrest," he said. Abuka wiped fake tears from his eyes. "Can we have the body moved tonight?" Amarachi asked quickly. He hated crowds. "Let's bury him fast." The doctor raised a brow. "Madam, it's unusual. My husband was a private man." Amarachi snapped. The next morning, the sky was dark like it wanted to cry, but the rain refused to fall. A black car moved slowly down the road, carrying the sealed coffin of Chief Obinna Chijibem. The glass window showed his face for the last time, resting peacefully, lips tight, eyes closed. But no one in that car really missed him. Not one tear from his family was true. The driver looked through the mirror and saw Amarachi's cold face beside the coffin. "Madam," he said softly, "are we still taking him to his village?" Amarachi shook her head quickly. "No village. We'll bury him at the family garden behind the house." The driver blinked. But that was not. She raised her voice. "I said what I said. We don't need crowd or noise. It's what he would have wanted." Abuka, sitting beside her, smiled quietly. "Fast and private. That's perfect." The driver nodded and turned the car back toward Lekki. Behind them, a second car carried the children. Chisholm was taking pictures of her black lace gown. Adaora was checking how her makeup looked in the mirror. "I'm tired," Chisholm complained. "How long will this thing last?" "Relax," Adaora said. "Once they dump the coffin inside, we can go back and rest. Maybe open some gifts too," Chisholm added with a grin. They both giggled. The car stopped at the compound. The gate opened. A small crowd of staff stood outside with long faces. Some were truly sad. Others were just afraid to be seen smiling. Obinna's old driver, Mr. Cunnell, removed his cap and wiped his eyes. He had worked with Obinna for over 20 years. He couldn't understand how a man that strong, that smart, could just drop dead overnight. The coffin was placed under a small white canopy near the flower garden. A cheap plastic chair was brought out for the priest. Even the priest was confused. "Where are the other family members?" he asked. "They're not needed," Amarachi said sharply. "My husband didn't like drama." The priest frowned. "But this feels too quiet." Abuka stepped forward. "Pastor, do your job. We don't need a sermon." He opened the Bible with shaking hands. They read 2 short verses. No choir, no music, no photos, no family speech. Just dirt. The casket was lowered into the ground. And just like that, Chief Obinna was gone. Amarachi threw a single rose on the coffin. She turned her back before the priest could even say Amen. Later that afternoon, the living room came alive. Not with sorrow, but with laughter. The house was filled with soft music, food, wine, and secret joy. Abuka had changed into a t-shirt and shorts. He sat on the couch with his feet on the table. "First thing tomorrow," he said, sipping juice, "I'm changing the CEO title to my name. Let them all know I'm in charge now." Chisholm walked past with her phone, recording a slow video of the mansion. "I'll post this and say, rest in peace to my mentor and first love. Forever missed," she said, then laughed. "That should get me enough sympathy followers." Adaora joined in. "And maybe a fashion brand will give you a deal." "Exactly," Chisholm smiled. "Death moves numbers." Amarachi was quiet, holding a wine glass, staring at the big photo of Obinna on the wall. It was the same one he had used on his 50th birthday banner. Smiling, strong, confident. Now, that same smile annoyed her. She stood up and walked over to the photo. Her voice dropped. "Even in death, You still want to lead everything." She turned away. That evening, they gathered in the study for the reading of the will. Obina's lawyer, Mr. Dyke, sat across from them, opening a black folder. As instructed, Chief Obina's last will and testament was sealed 5 months ago. No changes were made before his passing. Amarachi crossed her legs and sipped from her glass. "Please, get to the point," she said. Mr. Dyke adjusted his glasses. "To my beloved wife Amarachi, I leave the family estates, all household accounts, jewelry, and my overseas villa in Dubai." Amarachi smiled to herself. "Smart man." "To my son, Abuka, I leave full shares in Chijibem Holdings, along with the company headquarters, official cars, and my private club membership." Abuka punched the air softly. "Boss life." "To my daughters, Chisholm and Adaora, I leave 250 million Nigerian nairas each, locked in trust funds, and access to my Lagos and London penthouses." Chisholm clapped. "London, here I come." Finally, the lawyer said, "A confidential letter addressed to all family members will be delivered tomorrow morning. The letter must be read in private." Amarachi raised a brow. "A letter?" "Yes, Ma. Personal instructions from Chief Obina. It is not for public ears." She waved her hand. "Fine. Just give us our money." By the next morning, money was no longer a problem. Abuka ordered a new G-Wagon. Chisholm went live on Instagram wearing a diamond necklace. Adaora shared a post titled, "If heaven had a phone, I would call my daddy." Thousands of likes. Thousands of fake tears. Amarachi didn't waste time either. She called her secret lover, Tony. "Baby," she said, "the old man is gone. The cage is open." Tony laughed on the phone. "So, can I move in now?" "Soon," she whispered. "Very soon." She looked around the mansion. She didn't feel sad. She didn't feel scared. Until that night. It started with a sound. A sharp bang. Like something had fallen in the hallway. The security man checked the CCTV. Nothing moved. But when he walked down the corridor, a single family photo had fallen from the wall. Only Obina's face was cracked. He picked it up slowly and stared at it. Just then, the lights in the corridor flickered. The air felt cold. He dropped the photo and ran back to his post. In the kitchen, the cook was boiling water for tea. She looked up and screamed. There was a shadow in the hallway. A tall man. Silent. Still. She blinked. It disappeared. She dropped the pot and ran out of the house. The next morning, Chisholm came down wearing shorts and her favorite perfume. She stopped in front of the mirror near the staircase to check herself. But the mirror looked different. It was blurry. Then something strange happened. Obina's reflection was standing behind her. Her heart stopped. She turned sharply. Nothing. No one was there. She looked back at the mirror. It was normal again. She ran upstairs. That night, Amarachi sat in the bedroom, reading the letter the lawyer had sent. Obina's handwriting filled the page. "If you are reading this, it means I am gone. But remember, truth always finds its way back home. You can take the house, the money, and the power, but peace does not live with betrayal." She dropped the letter quickly. It was too calm, too knowing, almost like he knew something. She stood up and went to the kitchen. There, the maid was shaking. "What happened to you?" Amarachi asked. "I saw him," the maid whispered. "I saw Ogre." "Which Ogre?" "Chief Obina. He passed through the hallway last night." Amarachi froze. "That's not possible." The maid's eyes were wide. He looked at me. His eyes were pale, like clouded water. Amarachi stepped back. "Leave," she said. "Take the rest of the week off." The maid didn't wait. She packed her bag and left that night. Abuka was in the home office when the lights suddenly went off. He shouted for the generator. But then his laptop came back on by itself. A video began playing on its own. It was footage from the night Obina died, security camera footage. The video showed the dining table, the family sitting, the toast, and then Abuka slipping something into the wine bottle. Abuka jumped to his feet. What the hell is this? He shut the laptop and threw it across the room. He was breathing fast, sweating. He didn't know who had that video. He didn't know how it came back. But something inside him whispered, he knows. That night, it rained for the first time since Obina was buried. Thunder rolled across the sky. Lightning flashed above the mansion. In the servant quarters, the driver, Mr. Cunnell, heard heavy footsteps in the corridor outside. He stood up and opened the door. A tall figure walked past, soaking wet. It was Obina, wearing the same clothes from his burial. Cunnell's mouth opened. Oh, Olga. The figure didn't turn, just kept walking toward the main house. Cunnell collapsed to the floor. Inside the main house, Amarachi sat in the living room alone, sipping wine. She had just told Tony not to come that night. Something was not right. She felt it in her bones. Then she heard it. The front door creaked. Her glass dropped to the floor. A shadow moved across the room. She slowly turned her head. And there he was. Obina. Standing. Soaked. Silent. Alive. Her mouth opened but no words came out. He walked closer. Obina, she whispered. He said nothing. Just stood there, looking at her. His pale eyes burned through her skin. You're dead, she whispered. Still nothing. He just smiled. A calm, knowing smile. She screamed. The scream echoed through the entire mansion. Amarachi's scream rang through the house like a siren. She clutched the edge of the chair, staring at the wet figure in front of her. Her chest moved fast. Her hands were shaking. She blinked once, twice, but the image didn't go away. Obina stood there, soaked from the rain, eyes pale like misty glass, clothes stained with mud. But he was alive, right in front of her. Obina, her voice cracked. He didn't answer. He just looked at her, calm, quiet, like he had all the time in the world. She tried to stand, but her knees buckled. He stepped closer. Please, she whispered, backing away. This is not real. Obina kept walking toward her. She screamed again, louder this time, and fell to the floor. Abuka, she shouted. Chisholm, Adaora. No one answered. She looked back at him, but the spot was empty. He was gone. Only drops of water led from the door to the staircase. She crawled to her feet, breathing heavily. Her heart was pounding like a drum. Then she heard it, a door creaking open upstairs. She turned and ran out of the room like a mad woman. Upstairs, Abuka was fast asleep. His room was dark. His phone was buzzing on the table, full of notifications from his night party photos. Suddenly, he heard banging. Abuka! Abuka! Open the door. He frowned, sat up, and dragged himself to the door. Mummy, what's wrong with you? He asked, opening it. She pushed in, her face pale and wet with sweat. I saw him, she said quickly. Who? Your father. Abuka's eyes narrowed. What kind of joke is that? I swear, she shouted. He was in the living room. Abuka stepped back and rubbed his face. Mummy, are you okay? You've been drinking again. I know what I saw, she yelled. His eyes. They were like ice. And he didn't say anything. He just stared at me. Abuka, I saw your father. Abuka stared at her, confused. She began to cry. I'm not mad. I'm not crazy. He was right there. Abuka looked toward the hallway, suddenly nervous. His room felt colder. He walked out slowly. Downstairs, the lights were off. Abuka turned them back on. Nothing looked out of place. He walked toward the living room, stepping carefully. No water. No footprints. Maybe you were dreaming, he said, trying to calm himself. I was not, Amarachi whispered behind him. He turned sharply. Okay, fine. Let's check the cameras. They went to the security room. The guard, Cunnell, was not there. Where is he now? Abuka muttered. He clicked through the camera footage from 10 minutes ago. Front door, nothing. Living room, quiet. Staircase, no movement. He sighed. You see? Nothing. Amarachi shook her head. He was there, I swear. Ibuka was about to close the screen when the video glitched for 1 second. The image jumped, then froze, and for just 2 seconds, Obina's shadow passed behind Amarachi in the living room camera. Ibuka paused the screen. Wait, what was that? He rewound, paused, zoomed. There it was, the shape of a man, still, watching. Amarachi covered her mouth. That's him, she said. That's Obina. In the girl's room, Chisholm was awake, scrolling through messages. Adorora was already asleep. Then they both jumped when the main door creaked. Did you hear that? Chisholm asked. Adorora sat up slowly. What was it? Someone's walking in the hallway, Chisholm whispered. They heard it again. Slow footsteps on the wooden floor. Then, the sound stopped right outside their door. The girls froze. Knock. One soft knock. Then silence. Chisholm grabbed Adeora's hand tightly. Who's there? She whispered. No answer. Then suddenly, the doorknob turned slowly. Adeora screamed. Chisholm jumped up and switched on the light. The door stopped moving. They ran to the door and locked it from inside. They held each other, shaking. Chisholm dialed Ibuka's number with trembling fingers. Come to our room now, she said. Someone is outside. Minutes later, Ibuka ran into their room with Amarachi behind him. No one was there, he said. But the knob turned, Adeora cried. We both saw it. Ibuka shut the door and looked at them seriously. Mum said she saw Dad. The girls gasped. That's not funny, Chisholm said. I'm not joking, he replied. We saw it in the camera. Silence. Amarachi sat on the edge of the bed. If his back, what does he want? Nobody answered. Adeora whispered, maybe he didn't die properly. Chisholm snapped, what are you talking about? The burial, she said slowly. We didn't bury him the right way. No prayers. No family rites. Nothing. Ibuka shook his head. That has nothing to do with this. I don't care what anyone says. Dead people don't walk. Amarachi looked at all of them. Whether you believe it or not, she said, I know what I saw. They all sat in silence, staring at the locked door. Morning came, but it didn't feel normal. The sun was out, but the house felt darker than usual. The maids refused to come back. The driver, Kunnel, had quit without warning. Ibuka called the security company and asked for fresh guards. Meanwhile, Amarachi locked herself in the room, refusing to talk to anyone. She was looking through old albums, searching for answers. Every photo of Obina she touched made her shiver. Downstairs, the main door opened slowly. Chisholm came out of her room and screamed. Standing in the hallway, fully dry now, dressed in simple white clothes, was Obina. Alive, clean, and calm. Hello, he said quietly. She froze, her eyes wide. She tried to run, but her legs wouldn't move. He took a step closer. You don't need to be afraid, he said gently. Her voice came out like a whisper. How are you here? He smiled. Shouldn't I be asking you that? In less than a minute, the whole family had gathered in the sitting room. Obina sat on one end of the couch, calm like he never left. The rest stood across from him, too scared to sit. Obina looked at them, one after the other. Amarachi spoke first. Obina, how are you alive? We buried you. I know, he said. Chisholm's voice shook. Is this a dream? No, he said. You're all awake, and I'm right here. Ibuka stepped forward. If this is some trick. Obina raised a hand. I'm not here to fight. Adeora began to cry quietly. Obina's eyes softened when he looked at her. You were always the quiet one. She covered her face. Chisholm shouted, You're supposed to be dead. I was, he said. They all went quiet. Obina leaned forward. I saw everything. Every single thing. even after I closed my eyes. Amarachi backed up slowly. Obinna, listen. He held up a finger. No, you listen. The air in the room changed. It became cold again. Obinna's voice was calm. Too calm. You buried me like trash. You celebrated my death. You touched what was not yours. You laughed while I was in the ground. Chisholm dropped to the floor. Adaora held her mother tightly. Abuka's face turned red. You don't know what you're talking about. Obinna looked at him. You were always weak, hiding behind noise. Do you want me to show you the video from the dining table? Abuka's mouth froze. Obinna turned to Amarachi. You wore red the night I died, just like you did when we first met. Do you remember what you whispered before I fell? She shook her head quickly. Please, stop. You said, may you rest. But I didn't rest. I heard it all. Amarachi dropped to her knees. Obinna, I was scared. I thought you were going to change the will. I didn't want to lose everything. You were pulling away from us. You were acting strange. I didn't know what else to do. You chose poison. Her tears fell fast. I didn't pour it. It was Abuka. What? Lie again. Abuka shouted. You said it was the only way. You were the one who ordered the fake doctor. They began to argue loudly. Blame flew across the room like arrows. Obinna sat back and watched. Then he stood. They all froze. No one's going to jail, he said. I won't kill you. I won't even touch you. They looked at each other, confused. Obinna walked to the door. But until you speak the truth, until you confess to the world, I will not stop watching. He turned to them with those same cold eyes. I am no longer your father. I am your reminder. Then he left the house. Just like that. No one followed him. No one breathed. The room stayed silent for a long, long time. Outside, the sun was bright. Obinna walked slowly down the street like a man who had never died. Neighbors stopped. Some screamed. Some fainted. Some crossed themselves. Obinna said nothing. He just kept walking. Some believed they were seeing a ghost. Others believed God had brought him back. But Obinna didn't care what they believed. He had seen death. Now it was time for the truth to live. The next morning, Abuka couldn't sleep. He had barely blinked all night. The image of Obinna, alive, calm, and silent, kept playing in his mind like a broken video. He lay on his bed, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling. His eyes were red. His hands were shaking. He picked up his phone and tried to call someone. Anyone. First, he dialed his lawyer. No answer. Then he called his assistant at the office. Still no answer. Finally, he called one of his close friends. Hugo. Guy. Abuka whispered the moment the call picked. I need to see you now. What's going on? Hugo asked, his voice low and sleepy. My dad is back. What? I said, my father is back. Obinna Chijubem, the man we buried. He walked into my house yesterday, alive. There was silence. Then laughter. Are you drunk? I'm serious. Abuka shouted. He looked at me. He spoke. He said he saw everything. Everything. He knows what we did. Hugo went quiet again. Then he said slowly, Abuka, I think you need to rest. Maybe this is guilt. Maybe. Abuka ended the call. He stood up, grabbed his car keys, and rushed downstairs. The mansion was too quiet. The kind of quiet that made your ears feel heavy. Amarachi and the girls hadn't come out of their rooms since Obinna left. Abuka walked outside to his car and jumped in. As he reversed, the gardener dropped his tools and stared. Good morning, sir, the man said, trembling. Abuka nodded quickly. Sir, is it true? Abuka froze. Is what true? That Ogre Obinna is back. Abuka said nothing. He drove off without answering. The drive to the company office was short but felt like an hour. When he entered the building, the workers stared. Some greeted him with fake smiles. Some whispered and looked away. He pushed open the main boardroom door and walked in. 7 men were already seated. All senior members of the board. They all looked up at once. "Good morning," Abuka said, trying to stay calm. No one answered immediately. Then Mr. Aid, the oldest on the board, stood up. "Abuka," he said, "you're no longer CEO." Abuka's heart jumped. "What did you say?" Mr. Aid stepped forward and dropped a folded document on the table. "Your father was declared alive yesterday, and legally, as long as he lives, the power returns to him." Abuka's voice rose. "I'm the new head. He gave the company to me." "Not if he's alive," Mr. Aid said. "And according to the lawyer, he is." Another man added, "There's a clause in the will. If Chief Obina is found alive within 1 month of death, the will reverses. He's now the legal owner again." Abuka's head spun. He pulled out a chair and sat down hard. "You're telling me I'm out?" "You're telling yourself that," Mr. Aid said coldly. Abuka stood up again. "You can't do this to me." "We didn't," Mr. Aid said. "You did it to yourself the day you signed your father's death with your own hands." The room went quiet. Abuka looked around. No one stood for him. He stormed out of the office. Back in the car, Abuka banged the steering wheel. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Now you understand." "Oh." He dropped the phone as if it was hot. Then he picked it again and texted back. "What do you want?" No reply. He waited. Then another message came. "Confess." He stared at the word. Just one word, but it felt like a heavy stone on his chest. He threw the phone across the seat. That afternoon, Abuka received another shock. His bank called him. "Sir, there's a freeze on your main business account," the woman said. "What?" "There was a court order this morning. From your father." "That's impossible." "No, sir. He's legally alive now, and he signed the documents himself." Abuka felt dizzy. He called his personal banker. Same thing. All accounts frozen. All cards blocked. His business line stopped working too. He was locked out. Everything gone. He drove straight home. Fast. Angry. Sweaty. He rushed into the house, yelling, "Mummy!" Amarachi ran down the stairs. "They took everything." Abuka shouted, "The board removed me. My accounts are frozen. I'm finished." She looked at him with wide eyes. "I thought you said he couldn't touch us." Abuka's voice broke. "He's alive, and he's 10 steps ahead of us." Chisholm and Adaora came down too, scared. "What's happening?" Chisholm asked. "He's taking everything back," Abuka said. "One by one." Amarachi sat down and held her head. "So what do we do now?" Abuka didn't answer. That night, the mansion was cold again. Nobody touched the food on the table. Abuka sat by the window, staring into space. Suddenly, a car pulled up at the gate. A black SUV. Obina stepped out. He didn't knock. He walked in like he still owned the place. Everyone stood up. Abuka's heart dropped. Obina looked at him. "You went to the office." Abuka said nothing. "You called your lawyer. Your bank. You asked why the world was falling apart." Still silence. Obina took off his wristwatch and placed it on the table. "You forgot something," he said. "You forgot that power is not given. It is taken and returned." Abuka shouted, "What do you want from me?" Obina turned slowly. "I already told you. I want the truth." Chisholm whispered, "You want us to go to jail?" "No," Obina said. "I want you to go to the world. Say what you did. Let the world decide what you deserve." Amarachi stood up. "Obina, please. He's still your son." Obina looked at her. He was. Until he chose money over blood. Abuka stepped forward. "I made a mistake," he said. "We all did. But you were never there for us. You kept everything to yourself. You made us feel useless." Obina's voice dropped. "And that made murder the answer." Abuka's voice cracked. "I didn't pour the poison. Mummy did. Amarachi slapped him. You coward! Obinna watched them fight. Then he picked up his wristwatch and said, I'll give you one more day. To do what? Abuka asked. To do what is right. The next morning, Abuka didn't come out of his room. He sat in front of his laptop, watching the video Obinna had sent him again and again. The footage of him sneaking the bottle under the table. The footage of Obinna falling. It was too clear, too real, too heavy. He opened his Instagram app. He looked at the live button. His fingers shook. He pressed it. A few seconds later, he was live. The camera showed his tired face. No smile. No energy. Hello, he said, voice low. This is not a joke. This is not a drama. I want to say something. Thousands of people joined within seconds. He looked into the lens. My name is Abuka Chijubem. You know me as the CEO of Chijubem Holdings. The rich son. The firstborn. The heir. He swallowed. I'm not proud of what I'm about to say, but I can't sleep anymore. I can't pretend anymore. He paused, then said it. We killed my father. Comments exploded. He continued. We poisoned him. On his birthday. Because we thought he was going to change his will. We were afraid. We were greedy. And we lied to everyone. More people joined. My mother was behind it. My sisters knew. I did it. I put the bottle under the table. I helped cover it up. I helped bury him fast. His voice broke. But now, he's back. He's alive. And he saw everything. He leaned close to the camera. I don't care if you hate me. I deserve it. I just want to say I'm sorry. Tears dropped from his eyes. I'm sorry, Dad. He ended the video and collapsed on the floor. Obinna watched the video from a small room far away. He closed his phone, stood up, and looked into the mirror. 1 down. 3 more to go. The video of Abuka's confession broke the internet. Within minutes, his face was on every blog, every news station, every gossip page. People reposted it with captions like Billionaire's son admits to killing father and Abuka Chijubem confesses live. In the mansion, Chisholm screamed. She threw her phone at the wall, breathing fast, hands shaking. What is wrong with that boy? She paced the room in her designer heels, sweating under her silk robe. Amarachi ran into the room. Did you see it? Chisholm pointed at the broken phone. He's mad. He confessed to everything. Now the whole world is dragging us. Amarachi looked pale. She sat down, holding her chest. He's weak, she said. He couldn't handle the pressure. Well, now they're calling me a murderer too. Chisholm shouted. Do you know how many brands I've lost in the last 1 hour? She rushed to her laptop and checked her email. 5 brand deals gone. 2 clothing lines cancelled their contracts. 1 makeup company sent a legal threat. She gasped when she saw her Instagram. Half her followers were gone. The ones left were commenting horrible things. You evil snake. Beauty can't hide wickedness. Your father should have risen and slapped you. She closed the app and screamed again. Meanwhile, Ada Aura sat on her bed quietly, holding her pillow tight. She didn't say much. She hadn't said much since Obinna returned. Her eyes stayed low, her voice low. She was scared, but also confused. She remembered her father's face when he looked at her. He wasn't angry. He wasn't loud. He just looked sad. Obinna, far from the mansion, was watching everything. He sat on an old bench inside a rented 1-room apartment, dressed in simple clothes. He didn't need his wealth right now. He needed the truth to keep spreading. He watched Abuka's video again, but this time, his eyes were focused on Chisholm in the background. The way she laughed, the way she clapped after he fell. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. A female voice answered. Yes, sir. Is the video ready? He asked. Yes. We pulled it from the house camera backup like you said. It's clear. Obinna closed his eyes for a moment. Post it, he said. 30 minutes later, a new video appeared on social media. This time, it was not from Abuka. It showed the birthday night, but from a different angle. Chisholm sat at the table, recording a TikTok video while her father gasped for air. She laughed in the video. Then she whispered, "Bye-bye, old man." She winked, and kept recording. The internet exploded. People were shocked. Some were angry. Some cried. Some said, "She's worse than her brother." Her name trended for the wrong reasons. #Chisholm the killer. #wicked daughter. Obina deserved better. Inside the mansion, Chisholm was losing her mind. She called her manager. No answer. She called her best friend. Switched off. She checked her page. 1,000,000 hate messages. Her photo was being edited with devil horns. Some said, "May your own children treat you the same way." She broke down in front of her mirror. "Why is this happening to me?" Amarachi stood by the door. "You brought it on yourself." Chisholm stood up, eyes red. "Don't talk like you didn't plan it too. I didn't laugh when your father died. You didn't stop it either." Chisholm shouted. "All you cared about was his bank account. You think you're better." Amarachi shot back. "You care more about your followers than your family." "I hate you," Chisholm whispered. "You turned us into this." "You turned yourself," Amarachi said coldly. Chisholm ran out of the room. Outside, the press had arrived. Reporters surrounded the mansion gate. Cameras flashed. Microphones were pushed through the bars. One journalist shouted, "Chisholm, do you have anything to say about the video? Is it true you celebrated your father's death?" Chisholm peeked through the curtain and screamed. She shut the window. Then she ran to her laptop. She opened a private folder on her drive. Inside were dozens of old videos, drafts, deleted content, and one diary file she had kept for years. She opened it. The first line said, "Sometimes I wish I was born into a different family." She scrolled down. There were entries where she complained about her father, mocked his old clothes, and wished for his death. She froze. Her eyes widened. "Oh no," she whispered. She had forgotten it was saved online. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. Another message. This time from an unknown number. "Truth or silence. Pick one." Oh. She dropped the phone like it burned her. Then she stood up, walked to the mirror, and looked at her reflection. For the first time in her life, she hated what she saw. She wiped her tears. Then opened her laptop. She pressed record. "Hi," she said, her voice soft. "If you're watching this, I guess you already hate me." She sighed. "My name is Chisholm Chijubem. And yes, I was part of it." She looked down, then back at the camera. "I was part of the plan. I knew what they were doing. I didn't stop it. I didn't speak. And on the night my father died, I smiled." Tears filled her eyes. "Maybe I didn't pour the poison. Maybe I didn't plan every detail. But I knew. And I still sat there. I watched him fall. I watched him struggle. I laughed. I thought it was funny." She paused. "I made jokes while he gasped for air." Her voice broke. "I was evil." She reached for a tissue and wiped her face. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even forgive myself. I just want to say it out loud. I did it. I'm sorry, Daddy." She ended the video and sat there for a long time. Hours later, the video was everywhere. Some people cried. Some cursed her. Some said at least she confessed. Some said it was too late. Obina watched the full clip with his hand on his chest. He didn't smile. He didn't cry. He simply nodded. 2 down. 2 more left. Later that evening, Obina called an old friend. "Hello?" the voice said. "Dr. Afolabi." "Obina, are you really back?" "Yes," Obina replied. "I need you to check on my daughter, Chisholm." "Why?" "She's cracking. I don't want her to hurt herself." Dr. Afolabi paused. "I'll go now." Obina ended the call. He looked out the window. The sky was turning orange. He picked up a small photo frame. It was an old picture of Chisholm, age 5, wearing her school uniform and smiling with missing teeth. He closed his eyes. "I still love you," he whispered. Then he placed the photo face down. At the mansion, Dr. Afolabi arrived and was let in. He found Chisholm lying on the floor of her room. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes swollen. She hadn't eaten. He helped her sit up. "What are you doing to yourself, Chisholm?" he asked gently. She didn't answer. He gave her water and sat beside her. "Do you know your father sent me here?" She looked up slowly. He did." "Yes," the doctor said. "He's worried about you." She burst into tears. "Why? I hurt him. Why would he care?" "Because he's your father," he said. "And no matter what, he still sees you as his daughter." She covered her face. "I don't deserve it." "Maybe not," he said, "but he's giving you a second chance." She cried harder. "I want to fix it." "Start by fixing yourself," the doctor said. "Stand up, clean up, live better." She nodded, and for the first time in weeks, she stood without shaking. That night, Chisholm wrote a new post on Instagram. Not a photo, just words. "I was wrong. I was cruel. I was lost. But I am not beyond repair. I accept the hate. I accept the pain. I only pray I become someone my father can be proud of again." The comments were mixed. Some clapped. Some insulted her again. But she didn't care anymore. She had finally told the truth. Now, she could breathe. Obinna read the post from his room. He smiled faintly. Then he opened a small notebook. He crossed out one name, Chisholm. Only Adaora and Amarachi remained. He closed the book slowly, then whispered to the air, "Tomorrow." The house was quiet again, but this time, it wasn't because of fear. It was because something inside had broken. Chisholm had confessed. Abuka had confessed. Now, only two names remained. Amarachi, the mother, and Adaora, the youngest of them all. She had been watching everything. Every tear, every scream, every lie, every truth. But inside her, something was heavy. Something she didn't know how to carry. It wasn't because she hated her father. She didn't. She loved him. That was the problem. She had loved him, and still stayed quiet the night they killed him. Adaora sat on her bed, hugging a small brown teddy bear. It was old and torn at the side, but she still kept it. Her father gave it to her when she turned 10. "You'll always be my baby," he had said that day. Now she stared at the wall, her eyes blank. The air in the room felt tight, like it didn't want her to breathe. Someone knocked on the door. She didn't answer. The knock came again, soft and gentle. "Adaora," the voice called. It was her mother. She wiped her eyes. "Yes. Come downstairs. Dinner is ready." "I'm not hungry." "You've not eaten all day." "I'm fine," Adaora said. But she wasn't fine. She hadn't been fine since the moment her father walked back into their lives. When she closed her eyes, she saw it again, Obinna falling to the ground. His fingers twitching, his mouth open, his eyes wide. She had looked at him, then looked away. She didn't scream. She didn't stop it. She just sat there, frozen. A part of her wanted to cry out, but another part whispered, "Stay quiet. It's already done." And now, she didn't know who she was anymore. The next morning, Adaora stepped outside for the first time in days. The garden was quiet. The trees didn't move. The air smelled like old rain. She walked slowly toward the back of the compound, where her father used to sit under the mango tree every Saturday morning. As she got closer, she stopped. Someone was sitting there. Obinna. He wasn't wearing his usual clothes. Just a simple white shirt and black trousers. He looked up and saw her. He smiled softly. "Adaora." She froze. She thought of running, but something in his eyes held her still. He tapped the bench beside him. "Come." She walked slowly and sat down beside him. Her hands were shaking. Obinna didn't look at her. He just looked straight ahead. They sat in silence for a while. The wind blew softly. A bird chirped in the distance. Then he spoke. I used to come here to rest my mind. You remember? She nodded slowly. He smiled again. Your mother hated it. She said the tree gave her allergies. Aurora didn't laugh. Obina looked down. I miss the days you used to run to me after school, screaming, Daddy, Daddy, look at my test score. She closed her eyes tightly. You always had the cleanest handwriting, he said. Even your teachers said it. A tear dropped from her eye. I'm sorry, she whispered. Obina turned to her. Why? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. So he waited. Patiently, calmly. She finally said, I should have said something that night. He nodded. I saw you, he said gently. You were the only one who looked scared. I was afraid, she said. Everything happened so fast. He nodded again. You didn't pour the drink. She shook her head. No, you didn't plan it. She shook her head again. But you watched, he said. More tears came from her eyes. I thought you were going to survive, she said. I thought maybe it was a joke. Maybe it wasn't real. I know, he said. She looked at him with red, swollen eyes. Do you hate me? He smiled. Never. But I was part of it. No, he said firmly. You were a child caught in something bigger than you. She looked down at her hands. I feel dirty. You're not, he said. You're just hurt. They sat again in silence. Then she spoke. I've been writing letters, she said softly, since the night you came back. He looked surprised. Letters? She nodded. I wrote one for you, every day, but I didn't know where to send them. Can I read one? He asked. She pulled a small envelope from her pocket. Her hands shook as she gave it to him. He opened it slowly. The paper was lined and smelled faintly of lavender. The words were shaky but clear. Dear Daddy, I don't know if you're a ghost or a man, but I know you came back. I know you saw everything. I know I failed you. I didn't scream. I didn't stop them. I wanted to. I swear I wanted to. I was just scared. Scared of Mummy. Scared of a booker. Scared of the truth. But now I'm scared of myself. I miss you. I miss our Sunday talks. I miss the way you said my Ada baby. If I could rewind time, I'd shout at the top of my lungs. But I can't. So I'll just say this now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Aurora. Obina read the letter slowly. When he was done, he folded it carefully and placed it in his pocket. He turned to her. You're the first person to say sorry without a camera in your face. She cried harder. He pulled her gently into a hug. She clung to him, sobbing into his chest. I love you, Daddy, she cried. I love you too, he said. And he meant it. Later that day, Aurora went back to her room. She opened her drawer and brought out a clean sheet of paper. She sat at her desk. She picked up her pen and wrote the words. This is the truth. Then she wrote her full confession. Every detail, every moment, every fear. She folded the letter, sealed it in an envelope, and wrote on the front, to the people of Nigeria. Then she walked to the post office with her head high and mailed it to the national newspaper. The next morning, her confession was on the front page. The headline read, Youngest daughter of billionaire opens up. I was scared, but I regret it deeply. People read her words. Some forgave her. Some didn't. But most said, she has a conscience. Back at the compound, Obina sat in the living room when the newspaper boy threw the paper at the gate. He picked it up. He read every line. When he finished, he folded the paper and looked toward the stairs. Aurora came down slowly. Their eyes met. No words needed. She already knew what he saw. He smiled at her. She smiled back. He whispered, 3. Only one left. Amarachi. The one who led it all. And the one who had not said a single sorry since it began. But her time was coming. Soon. The whole mansion had changed. The rooms were still there. The walls still stood. The gold frames still sparkled. But inside, nothing was the same. A booker had confessed. Chisholm had broken down. Even little Ada Aurora had written to the world. Now only one person remained. Amarachi. The mother. The woman who once ran the house like a queen. Now she moved through the hallways like a shadow. Her phone had stopped ringing. Her friends had disappeared. The world was silent toward her. And so was Obinna. He hadn't returned to the mansion in days. But that didn't give her peace. His silence was worse than his presence. It crawled through the walls and wrapped around her like a cold rope. She sat in her bedroom most of the time, not brushing her hair, not changing her clothes. The woman who used to shine like the sun now looked like someone hiding from her own reflection. That evening, she stood in front of the mirror. Her eyes were puffy. Her face was bare. She looked at herself for a long time. Then she whispered, "He's not coming back, is he?" She turned from the mirror and walked downstairs slowly. But the smell stopped her. Food. Real food. Agusi soup. Pounded yam. Fried fish. And it wasn't the cook. The cook had left 2 weeks ago. She followed the smell to the dining room. There he was. Obinna. Standing behind the table. Wearing a clean white native shirt. Calm. Still. His eyes were soft, but unreadable. She froze. What are you doing here?" she asked. He didn't answer. He walked to the chair and pulled it out. "For you," he said simply. She hesitated. But then, she sat. He went around and sat opposite her. The same seats they used to take every Sunday afternoon. He picked up the serving spoon and began dishing food, first into her plate, then into his. She watched him quietly. He placed a bottle of water between them. No wine, no laughter, just silence. When everything was set, he folded his hands and closed his eyes. He said a quiet prayer. Amarachi didn't join. When he opened his eyes, he picked up his spoon. She just stared. "Eat," he said gently. "I'm not hungry," she replied. "Eat anyway." She picked up her spoon with shaky hands. They both ate for a few minutes in silence. Then he dropped his spoon. "Do you remember our first dinner in this house?" She nodded slowly. "You wore a red dress," he said. "Same shade you wore the night I died." She looked down at her plate. He continued, "That night, I said I didn't want to be king anymore. I wanted to retire. Spend time with my family. Travel. Rest." She nodded again, eyes still low. "You smiled at me," he said. "You said, 'That's good, my lion.' But your eyes said something else." Amarachi whispered, "I was scared." He looked at her. "Of what?" "That you would change the will," she said. "That you would leave everything to the company or to charity. That you would forget me. Forget us." "I worked all my life for this family," he said. "I know," she replied. "But somewhere along the line, we stopped being a family." Obinna leaned forward. "You stopped loving me." She blinked hard. "I don't know. Maybe I stopped seeing you as a man and started seeing you as a wall. A gate I couldn't pass. You had everything. I had nothing. You were always in control. So you chose poison." "I chose silence first," she said. "I kept quiet for years. I smiled. I obeyed. I looked pretty. But inside, I was shrinking." He nodded slowly. "Then you found Tony." She closed her eyes. "Yes. You brought him into my house. I hated myself for that." "Did you hate me too?" She opened her eyes. "No," she said. "I didn't hate you. I envied you. I was tired of walking behind you. I wanted to be seen." "You were always seen," he said softly. "Not by you," she snapped. "You saw your business. You saw your bank alerts. You saw your board meetings. But you didn't see me." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "So you killed me." Tears spilled from her eyes. "I told them it would be quick," she said. "I said he wouldn't suffer. I told myself you were already gone." "But I wasn't," he said. "I know," she cried. I know now. They sat in silence. She wept quietly. I buried you like a stranger, she said. No music, no prayers, just a box and a shovel. He nodded. I heard it all, he said. Every laugh, every toast, every fake tear. She looked up at him. Do you want me to go to jail? He shook his head. I want you to go to the truth. She looked confused. He continued, I've taken back the company. I've frozen the accounts. I've brought you all to your knees. But that's not the justice I need. Then what? She asked. I need to hear it. She frowned. Hear what? The words, he said. Not for me. For yourself. She looked away. Say them, he said calmly, or carry them forever. Her lips trembled. Her shoulders shook. She pressed her hands to her chest like something heavy was sitting there. I killed you, she whispered. He didn't speak. I betrayed you, she said louder. I took your love and turned it into anger. I turned your care into control. I made the children follow my hate. He waited. I became a knife, she said. He leaned back. There it is. She dropped her spoon and broke into sobs. I'm sorry, she wept. I don't want to die with this. He stood up and walked around the table. He placed a folded paper in front of her. What's this? She asked. A statement. Already typed. Just sign it. She looked at it. It was a full confession. Her name. Her role. Her reasons. I'll send it to the media tomorrow, he said. Whether your signature is on it or not. She looked up at him. What happens if I don't sign? You live in a house where every picture hates you, he said. You wake up to silence. You eat with guilt. And every time someone knocks, you wonder if it's me again. She looked at the paper. She picked up the pen. Her hand hovered over the line. Then she signed. When she looked up, Obinna was already walking toward the door. Obinna, she called. He stopped. Do you still love me? He turned his head halfway. I used to. And then he walked out. Amarachi fell to the floor, crying into her hands. The paper sat on the table, ink still wet. Outside, the stars were out. Obinna stepped into the cool air. He took one deep breath, then walked away from the house, and never looked back. The morning came slowly. The sky looked softer than usual. The wind blew gently across the streets. Lagos didn't wake up with noise that day. It woke up with whispers. The news was everywhere. Amarachi Chijubem confesses, I helped kill my husband. The front pages carried her photo. No makeup, no smile, just a tired, broken woman with swollen eyes. TV stations played her recorded confession over and over. Her voice was low but clear. Her words were like a cut on clean glass. I was angry. I was bitter. I let darkness grow in me. I lied. I manipulated. I watched my husband die and said nothing. I planned it. I supported it. I signed my soul away. People watched from restaurants, buses, and barbershops. Some shook their heads. Some cried. Some were quiet for a long time. But the truth had finally come out. The whole truth. Inside the Chijubem mansion, there was no movement. The maids were gone. The driver had left. The gate man had packed his bags. Amarachi sat alone on the same dining table where Obinna had served her the last meal. Her head was down. Her body didn't move. She hadn't slept all night. She had sent the confession letter to the media herself. She had pressed send with her own hand. Now, there was nothing more to do. The children had all left the house. Abuka had moved into a small apartment in Ikeja, far from the city's eyes. Chisholm had deleted her social media and started therapy in a quiet town. Adaora was staying with her uncle in Abuja, away from everything. And Obinna? No one knew where he was. He had walked out of the mansion 2 nights ago and vanished into the world like smoke. But Obinna wasn't running. He was resting. He had rented a simple 1-bedroom flat near the edge of the city. The windows opened to a small patch of trees. Birds came in the morning. Dogs barked in the distance. and peace filled the room like fresh air. He didn't wear suits anymore. He wore soft shirts, simple slippers, and a wristwatch that didn't tick anymore. He didn't check his bank app. He didn't return calls. He just Saturday. He would wake up, sit by the window, drink pap and akara, and read the newspaper slowly like it was poetry. On that morning, he picked up the newspaper and saw Amarachi's face on the cover. He didn't flinch. He didn't cry. He just nodded. He folded the paper neatly and placed it beside him. Then he stood up and stretched. A knock came at the door. It was the landlord. "Good morning, sir," the old man said. "You have a visitor." Obinna frowned. "Who?" "I don't know," the landlord said. "But she looks like peace." Obinna walked to the door. Standing outside was Aurora, wearing a simple gown and sandals, holding a small flask in one hand and an envelope in the other. He smiled. She smiled back. "I brought food," she said, "and a letter." He let her in. Inside, they sat on the wooden bench by the window. She opened the flask. "Rice and stew, just like he liked it. I cooked it myself," she said. He took a bite. "Delicious," he said. She smiled again. Then she gave him the envelope. He opened it slowly. It was a handwritten letter, carefully written. No mistakes. "Daddy, this is my final letter. Not because I'm finished talking to you, but because I've said all the hard things already. Now I want to say the soft things. Thank you for not shouting at me. Thank you for hugging me instead of judging me. Thank you for walking away instead of getting revenge. Thank you for giving us a chance to speak the truth ourselves. Even when we didn't deserve it. We failed you, but you came back. Not to punish, but to remind us who we used to be. I don't know what the world thinks of you now, but to me, you are still Daddy. You always will be. Come back when you're ready. Love, Aurora." Obinna folded the letter carefully and placed it beside his heart. "Thank you," he whispered. Aurora stood. "I'll see you again." He nodded. She walked out of the house with peace in her steps. Days passed. Then weeks. Then one day, the gate of the Chijibem mansion opened again. But not for a car. For a man. Obinna. He walked in slowly, alone, holding a bag with just one thing inside, his wedding ring. He walked to the living room. Amarachi was sitting on the same couch. She didn't stand. She didn't speak. She just looked at him. He dropped the bag on the table. Then sat across from her. "I'm not here to stay," he said. "Just to say goodbye properly." She nodded. "Did you read the papers?" she asked. He nodded. "Did you watch the video?" He shook his head. "I didn't need to." She swallowed hard. "I still wear my ring." He looked at her hand. It was true. He pulled out his own from the bag and placed it on the table. "I'm leaving it here." Her eyes filled with tears. "Will you ever forgive me?" He looked her in the eye. "I already did. That's why I'm here. But forgiving is not the same as forgetting." She nodded slowly. "I understand." They sat for a long moment in silence. Then he stood. "You can keep the house," he said. "Do whatever you want with it." She looked up at him. "Where will you go?" He smiled. "Where no one knows my name." She wanted to ask more, but she knew he wouldn't answer. He picked up nothing. He turned and walked away. Outside the house, the wind felt fresh. Children were playing in the street again. Lagos had moved on, and so had he. As he walked down the road, someone recognized him. "Is that not Chief Obinna?" Another person said, "That's the man who came back from the dead." But Obinna didn't stop walking. He didn't turn. He didn't wave. He just kept moving. Not toward the past, but toward peace. Toward a life with no cameras, no poison, no pretending. Just truth. That night, as the moon climbed the sky, the lights in the Chijibem mansion finally went off. And for the first time in a long time, the house finally slept in silence.